How's it going, everyone? Hey, Amy. Welcome back to the Ultimate Assist Me Q&A, and something's missing. Huh, that's better. Featuring Ghost Rider and Firebrand. If you didn't get the chance to check out the previous video, Ghost Rider and Firebrand were the two characters we covered, and I opened up the availability of questions to fans and viewers like you to ask questions about these characters, so I can hopefully dissect a little bit more information and let you know more about what they can do. But for now, let's go ahead and answer the first few questions available.
I'm just wondering, do you think Firebrand will become like overused in every team? Because me and my friend had this discussion. He thinks that Firebrand's gonna be like Wolverine and it's going to be overused, but I don't think so. I think that Firebrand will not be as blatant as Wolverine in being the overused section. What are your thoughts on Firebrand?
So is Firebrand going to be an overused character like Wolverine? I don't actually think so. The big thing that made Wolverine in vanilla Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was that he had a huge amount of damage and damage output for some pretty low execution moves, and he had availability with certain assists, like Akuma, for example, to get characters in situations where it became extremely hard to block. Firebrand has some very tricky setups. He's not a character as much like Wolverine as I was going to say initially, but he offers a lot of reset options, but he doesn't have that damage output. He's a very low damage output character, but he makes up for it in mobility. So in general, no. Firebrand's going to be very effective, but he's not the vanilla Wolverine that you might be afraid of.
One concern I have, though, is how safe or is his jump S or H cancelable? I'm not sure which move it is because I haven't played the character personally. I'm concerned that it might be a death sentence versus things such as Spencer's wire grapple or Wesker's phantom move, or even something like Ryu's air Shinku Hadouken.
Thanks for the question, and you're exactly right. Ghost Rider is going to suffer pretty hard on characters that have full screen punishing projectiles or counter moves. Now, the big thing is that his jumping H and jumping S, like you were explaining, they in fact cannot be cancelled. So that pretty much leaves that if you commit to doing a jumping special or a jumping H with Ghost Rider, you have to fully commit. There's no out of it because he has no jumping specials that you can cancel into or no jumping hypers that you can cancel into as well. And I've had some discussions about this and I've done some testing, and Ghost Rider is a very, very good character. He might be good at the start, but he might get opened up by certain matchups. And like you were saying, those matchups are going to be characters with physical counters and characters with projectiles or hyper projectiles that would hit them full screen. So yeah, you're going to have to be very careful when dedicating to those specials or those heavies against those types of opponents.
This question is about Ghost Rider, and I was wondering that seeing that Ghost Rider is a long-range fighter, how good is his short-range tactics and what are his weaknesses?
And this one's pretty similar to the question we just answered, and it's that Ghost Rider's long-range tactics are where he's the most powerful. In short range, the dude suffers pretty hard. I think I tested out with some initial moves, and he has this standing, I think it's standing medium, and he does a lunging knee attack. And this attack is deviously long. I think if you start like Ghost Rider and your opponent right at the beginning of a match, and you press medium right at the start, the knee will actually hit, and it's really fast. But besides from that, he doesn't have many other options when he's up close, and that's where he's definitely going to suffer. Against dudes that rush down, and if you're able to get in on Ghost Rider beyond those long stretching normals, yeah, the dude is toast. Literally.
A rumor that had been going around for a while about how supposedly they were trying to make Ultimate a more zoning-based game, and in a interview recently with Seth Killian, he did mention that they did buff zoners, or they try to make zoners just more viable. Do you think that zoning will be a viable option in high competitive play?
Yeah, I heard this question a lot as well, and it also concerned me when I heard Seth Killian initially talking about this when Ultimate was in its very early stages, how they want to buff zoning. And this is a kind of a rough subject because Marvel Vs. and any of the Vs. games in general have been very rushdown centric. But to be honest, I definitely see the path that they're going and the design choices in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. There are some characters still that are new to the cast that benefit from Rushdown and are pretty much made for Rushdown. But at the same time, the overall effectiveness of zoning seems to be much better. If there's one character that I can say as an example that is really good, even more so in zoning than the first one, and it's probably Deadpool. But besides from that, a lot of the new cast benefit from zoning heavily. You'll see more of these new cast of characters later episodes of Ultimate Assist Me. But I definitely feel that strategic design, and it's hard to say how it's going to impact competitive play in the very end, because you really don't know how these games are going to evolve until they get into the hands of millions of people. Luckily, with the information I'm able to provide, I'm able to give everyone an introduction to how the game is going to be, but it really depends on how it evolves with the community and the players.
Firebrand and Ghost Rider, from what I've seen, could be part of the next top tier. What I want to know is, what is their health? Because if Ghost Rider has an exceptionally large health, that he could just be like one of the more popular used characters.
In regards to exact numbers for health, I don't have the exact figures, but after extensive play with both characters, I believe Firebrand hovers somewhere around, LOL hovers, 800,000 to 850,000. As far as Ghost Rider goes, I think he's pretty close to 1 million. He might be a little bit below, if not somewhere around the range of 950 to 1 million. But Firebrand is in general a low health character, and Ghost Rider is about average to above average.
With Ghost Rider, do his normal attacks count as physical attacks or projectiles? I was wondering this because if Wesco or a Taskmaster were to counter full screen, and would it hit?
You know what? I'm actually not entirely sure if I've hit Ghost Rider's normals with Wesker's counter. Let me go find out. Amy, just stay. Just stay. Oh, yes, Ghost Rider's attacks are physical, and Wesker can counter them. Holy shit.
I just had a question on Firebrand. His luminous body hyper, is it just a general speed increase or a speed and attack increase?
Yeah, Luminous Body actually only increases speed. I've done quite a bit of testing to see if I can find any other potentially hidden moves that don't show up on his command list, but I haven't found anything.
I want to know, what exactly is the difference between when your opponent is in a hard knockdown state, what's the difference between using Spirit of Vengeance just to OTG them immediately, and, for example, instead hitting them with his OTG Fire Breath and going into what I'll just call the Chainmail Throne?
I'll go find out.
Oh, forget this fire.
Oh, okay. If you OTG into the, I think it's the Chain Maelstrom, it actually does a little bit more damage than the Spirit of Vengeance. However, the convenience of the Spirit of Vengeance could be a little bit better in longer combo strings, because if you hit them with the special in the air and it slams them to the ground, the Spirit of Vengeance comes down immediately, and sometimes the OTG Fire Breath won't hit the opponent. Ugh.
My question had to do with Ghost Rider's assist, Heartless Fire. Just from your video alone, it looked like a very invulnerable way to get people off, and I was thinking it could potentially be the new Gustav Fire. And I was wondering what your opinion was.
The Heartless Spire assist is really good, but it's hard to say if it's going to be like the new Gustav Fire. If anything, they kind of wanted to take away the mindless throwing out of invincible assists, and then you hit confirm into, well, pretty much dead. But it's very good, and then one of the better aspects of it is that it blocks projectiles to a certain degree, so I wouldn't go as far to say as that it's, you know, the new OP assist, but it definitely expands his character usability.
What is the most powerful character? The Ghost Rider that attacks at distance, or Firebrand that attacks at distance and attacks at close?
It's actually a pretty good question. All things considered, when comparing characters to other characters, there's a lot of insightful conversations that come about who's more effective, and is this character more effective with other things like assists. But if you were to put the abilities of Ghost Rider right next to the stuff that Firebrand can do, I'd say that Ghost Rider might edge out Firebrand a little bit because he's very easy to use. His combos do a lot of damage, and at the same time, Firebrand does a lot of extended combos that last much longer but do less damage, and he attacks at a distance, but more so he's meant for rushing down. He's got some very unique tools that make Firebrand a good rushdown character, but at the same time, Ghost Rider's Keep Away is so effective. It's going to be very hard to combat that when the game first comes out.
Which kinds of characters do you think would fit the best together with this character, or would allow him to exert his abilities to the best? I am curious to pick him up. However, I am still not sure in what kind of team he would go good against.
Ghost Rider doesn't really require assists to be effective, but they are going to certainly help. If anything, I think he's a good on-point character, but if I were to choose a couple of worthwhile assists, any assists that lock down the opponent are going to be really good. Even beam projectile ones are going to be great, because Ghost Rider covers the vertical space very, well, he doesn't cover the vertical space at all for the most part. If anything, his jumping down S attack and even his jumping heavy attack cover above his head, but when he's going into attacking and getting a character locked down, things like Cold Star or Dante's Jam Session, or even the Eye of Agamotto from Doctor Strange, even though we'll talk about that later, work very well. What you want to do with Ghost Rider is keep the opponent locked down, and while you're doing that you want to build meter, and you build meter very easily with Ghost Rider because of those long connecting chain normals that are always hitting the opponent. If they're blocked, you're going to get meter from it. So I'd say look for lockdown assists, and that'll definitely make it a lot easier for Ghost Rider to be effective.
From what I've seen, Ghost Rider plays an awful lot like Dawson from Street Fighter 2, but I'm just wondering if the chain he uses has the same effect as Dawson's super stretchy limbs. Is the Dawson resemblance in terms of the playstyle for Ghost Rider an accurate one, or am I off the rails here?
Yeah, I completely agree with the Dalsum comparison of Ghost Rider in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. In general, even in Versus games, there were some characters that had like stretching limb moves that put themselves really far across the screen. Even Super Skrull has, I think, one or two that make him have that effective ability. But at the same time, Ghost Rider's playstyle is super unique, as he's the only character in the game with normals or a bunch of normals that stretch full screen, and his idea or his purpose is to keep people away from him and to do damage at a distance. And for the most part, that's a lot of what Dalsum does. He gets damage from small pokes, and he gets damage from full screen distance. So Ghost Rider's similarity to Dalsum is a very accurate one. So that's going to just about do it for the second episode of the Assist Me Q&A. I'd like to give a big thanks for anyone that took the time to record themselves, to get footage of themselves asking questions about the show, because I really like it when people go out and I get to see the actual folks that watch the show. There's a huge disconnect between like watching a view counter and realizing that all those are really people and they actually enjoy what we do. So it's very humbling to see real people ask us questions about the characters in the show or what we're doing with Assist Me. But thanks very much for watching. If you didn't get the chance to check out Assist Me Episode 1 featuring Strider or Hawkeye, you can find it right around this general area. And if you didn't get the chance to see Assist Me featuring Ghost Rider and Firebrand, it should be somewhere around here. I'd like to thank you guys very much for watching Episode 2 once again, and I'll see you in the Ultimate Assist Me Episode 3. Come on, Emmy. Let's go find out how to get this jacket off.
Yeah.